What's going on, guys? It's George coming at you with another video, and as always, it's another beautiful day out here in Soho. We're actually going to be working on the Datsun 280Z again for today, guys. So I'm actually going to be upgrading, in a way downgrading, I guess you could say, but I look at this as a major upgrade. So with these old Zs, pretty much the S30 chassis, there were little variations in between each. For the most part, they pretty much remained as the same car, same body, same chassis. On the 240Z, it had actually a small slim bumper and one housing for the taillights, whereas with the 260 and 280, they actually came with these thicker bumpers and these three-piece housing taillights. So you guys could see this housing is pretty much the reverse taillight, brake light, and turn signal in one, and the running light. So they're all as one giant piece, but each one has its own lens, so they're all separate. None of them are actually intersected together. And what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be upgrading from these over to these 240Z taillights instead. And as you guys can probably see, these things here, they're actually a single unit housing compared to the three-piece housing there. And on top of that, the panel is actually metal, whereas this one is plastic. I mean, this one here compared to this one, this thing looks so much nicer. It's just one piece. It's a lot more uniform, especially when you compare it to those. On top of that, this just gives me that classic or retro JDM feel to it altogether. So once we actually take off this panel, you can actually see this is the taillight. So honestly, not in bad condition at all. Honestly, looks really good. Looks like it was well taken care of. I actually have the left one in here, but the left one, it looks a little bit like it's gonna need some work. So you could see this one is a lot darker. It's not as polished, and there are cracks somewhere like right there and somewhere in there. So this one right here is going to need a little bit of TLC to get looking as good as the other one. So I'm hoping that I can restore this one. So what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm going to take apart this housing, and once that's all taken apart, we'll start sanding everything, and then we're going to hit it with some VHT nightshade. That way we can go ahead and get everything up to par so that it matches with the one that's down there. So hopefully this goes good. Alright guys, so I figured I'd pretty much show you guys a little bit of the process that it takes to go ahead and start opening up headlight housings and tail light housings. But basically all you really need is heat, preferably if you have a heat gun, but if you don't, blow dryer honestly on high setting would work fine. Only reason I would recommend like a heat gun is just because you can control the settings on it. But basically you want to go ahead and heat up the housing from the edges. So pretty much right here, as you can see, the white and the red are the distinction where the two separate. So I'm gonna go ahead and heat up that end of the housing. That way I can start separating it. It'll loosen up the adhesive. That way I can start pulling it off. So you guys can see, I actually started to pull it apart just a little bit. So this is like well over 40-year-old adhesive on there. So it should come off pretty easily. All right, so that really didn't take much effort or much heat. Just goes to show that these things are obviously in a serious need of rebuilding. So we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of these adhesive fully off, and we can take off the lens. We'll start removing all of the adhesive from around the lens. You can see some of it is still on the edges of it. We'll go ahead and wash the housings, separate the metal pieces, and we'll go ahead and start sanding this down. All right guys, so at this point, my hands are a little bit dirty, but at this point, everything is pretty much taken apart, sanded down. I went ahead and got rid of the old weather stripping adhesive that holds the housing to the lens. So you guys can probably see right there. So I have this fully sanded down. So all that's left to do is go ahead and clean it up. We're gonna go ahead and wipe it down with some degreaser. These housings, the inside housings, are all cleaned up, so there's no more dirt on them. And I completely cleaned out these grooves. That way I can put in the new weather stripping adhesive. That way we can go ahead and get these on mounted once they're done. And for the painting, basically, I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up right now. I had to order it because my local AutoZone and O'Reilly's didn't carry it. For the weather strip adhesive, I'm gonna be using this. You can find it on Amazon. Honestly, this thing's really cheap. It's like 12 bucks. It's a little tacky weather strip adhesive. So it's really tacky and it's really malleable. It's basically like rubber. So all that's left to do is to go ahead and mold it and start putting it inside of the housing right here. But once those things are nice and all set, we can go ahead and start getting them ready to install on the 280Z. All right, guys, so going into the next day, I did have to wait for this particular spray paint to actually get here. Basically, it's the VHT Nightshade, if you guys can see that, and it's this red translucent, so you can see right there how it's transparent. You can see through it, but it is red. Once the tint is fully done on that and we are pretty much all set with the red tint, all that's gonna be left to do is hit it with some clear coat. This is gonna be the Rust-Oleum 2X. All that's really left to do for me is pretty much just wipe down these lenses, and we're gonna mask off wherever it's clear, so right there, and that way we don't get any red lens tint onto the transparent part. That part's gonna be just clear coated, and it should be pretty much all set. Pretty much have everything taken off at this point. I mean, all that was on that rear panel for the taillights is just the taillights and that plastic trim that covers them. The rest of it is pretty much just bare metal. So literally that's the only part that's dividing the inside of the car from the outside, as you guys can probably tell. It's just this sheet metal that's here. These are the panels that we're gonna be putting on, and these things are gonna go right here. The other one will just end up going like right, I don't know if I could get it, right there. It's pretty much gonna confine everything to just this area. So they're gonna look a lot nicer. This one over here, as you guys can probably tell, is in a lot better condition, but on the left one, this is the one that's gonna need a little bit of work. You guys can probably see the pitting that's going on right down here. So what I'm gonna end up having to do with these, on the left one at least, is I'm gonna sand it down, start scoring some of the pitting, that way we can get rid of any of the rust and make sure that we prevent it from spreading any further. Once that's all done, we can go ahead and sand it down, fully make it flush. We'll lay down a coat of rust preventative primer, and then we'll hit it with the black paint. That way it all looks really good. So I'm pretty excited for these things to go on. This metal right here is getting in the way. So I'm gonna have to mark this out here and cut it out. That way we can make it sit a lot more flush. Alright guys, so just a quick update. I did finish sanding and pretty much hitting this with the wire wheel. So everything on this is pretty much nice and as smooth as I could get it. But for the most part, we got everything nice, smoothened out, nice and sanded. Hit it around this area that was pitting right here. Got it as best as I could. I'm gonna end up hitting this with some filler primer, and then we're gonna sand it down. And once that's all done, it should be able to fill in all of those little dents around this chrome trim. And then once it's all primered, we can go ahead and paint it. Alright, so at this point it's pretty much all set and primered. It went ahead and filled in as much of the gaps as it could have with the primer, but honestly it's really not even that noticeable once you look at it. You'd probably have to come really close, and even then it just doesn't really come up, so you can't really tell. Okay guys, so while that's drying, pretty much I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting into the Datsun. I already did lay out the outline for this end right here. It's just going to be this black line that I traced out right here that I need to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the Sharpie, that way I can make it a little bit darker. And then after that, I'm going to start hitting it with the angle grinder. That way we can go ahead and cut out those slits and make it a lot wider. Okay guys, we're back. The panels are done drying, so everything's pretty much all set for the 240Z rear tail lights that we're going to be putting on the 280Z. All that's left to do pretty much is mount everything up. Before I go into that, and I kind of ran out of time, it started getting dark. The panels for the 240Z tail lights are fully done. They're fully dry, and honestly, they look killer. I'm really stoked about them, so I'm gonna go to show you guys how they came out, alongside how the restored 240Z taillights came out. So give me a quick sec. So yeah guys, these things honestly came out so nice. I couldn't have asked for these things to pretty much turn out any better than this. I guess for this being my like first full-time restoration for like any type of lights in general, so taillights included, I honestly think that they came out so good. You could tell that the reflection from the clear is so nice. We don't really have any orange peel in it, so that was a big plus. I ended up sanding it down a couple times and finally ended up polishing it to the point where we could get it to look like this. And honestly, this thing came out so freaking nice. So honestly, I'm so stoked for these 240Z taillights to finally go onto the 280Z. So these things look so dope, and they are finally all sealed with the new weather stripping adhesive to go ahead and back it onto the housing altogether. So honestly, these things look freaking killer, guys. On top of that, we got the 240Z taillight panels. So these ones are actually going to sit on top of the taillights like so. Don't want to scratch anything. Oop. Like that. So these panels are going to sit over it like that, and it'll pretty much block out the housing once it's all adjusted, and it'll look relatively like this once it's all on the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount all of this up just so we could get like a mock of how everything will look once it's on the car. But honestly, I'm so excited for these things to come on. I mean, they look so dope. The restoration process for these wasn't too bad, in all honesty, and they just look so much better than the last ones for the 280Z that were on here. They look a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, and it gives it that classic JDM look that I've been trying to go for this car. So let me go ahead and mock those up onto the rear end of the car real quick. That way I can show you guys how they came out. I mean, honestly guys, these things are so freaking dope. I don't have any words to say. I'm super excited for these things because honestly, it just makes me look at it and I'm just like, my build is finally coming together with certain little aspects that I'm finally getting to put onto this car, the things that I wanted to put onto it. So I'm super excited for these. So here you guys go. Let me know what you guys think. But here are my Datsun 240Z taillights. Gee, those things are so freaking clean. They look 10 times nicer than the ones that the 280 came with. Honestly, this is like unreal to look at the moment, just because I got these taillights for basically free after I sold my other taillights. It just gives me that classic JDM, you know, styling that I'm trying to go for. Obviously the bumper down here, well, that's not the classic JDM styling, it's actually the 280Z bumper, so it's a lot fatter. But I do have a 240 bumper down here. I have a metal one, and I actually have a fiberglass one that I just picked up. So we're probably gonna be swapping that out pretty soon. But honestly, this is just so exciting to see because it's leading us in the right path towards what I want to do with this build. And I'm so excited that these taillights can finally go on. And honestly, it's just, you know, it makes me happy. I have really no words to say how much like more excited. You guys probably just tell from me speaking how excited I am for these things. But honestly, these things are so freaking dope. If you guys like the 240Z taillights, let me know. Let me know what you guys think because these things are so freaking dope. I'm gonna keep on saying they're so freaking dope. They just make the car like it looks 10 times better, honestly. Let me know what you guys thought about the taillights because honestly these things look so freaking dope. All that's left to do is to go ahead and put the bulbs in. I would show you guys how they look lit up, but unfortunately my battery's dead, so I have to go charge it. But for the next one, I definitely need my battery charged, so we'll have the battery charge because we're gonna be doing stuff with the engine in that point, so we're gonna need you know, current. Aside from that, I hope you guys did enjoy the video for today. Honestly, let me know what you guys think of these freaking taillights. These things are so dope. Honestly, I have no complaints. And so I don't know, maybe I could toss in like a quick cinematic, like let me pose real quick for y'all. If we toss in a quick cinematic right here. Alright guys, but yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you guys thought of the 240Z taillights. Honestly, again, super dope. Feel free to like, comment, let me know what you guys thought. If you guys aren't already, feel free to go ahead and subscribe, join the family while you're at it. There's a subscribe button down there. But yeah guys, that's pretty much gonna be it for today's video. And as always, it's another beautiful day out here in Soho, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.